Hello and welcome to the first official Calibre podcast. My name is Jacob Sotiris, the Digital Director at Calibre Group Solutions. And today I am joined by a very recognisable face within the automotive industry, someone that I'm privileged and humbled to have the opportunity to actually interview and sit down with, the CEO of the IMI, Mr. Steve Nash. How are you, Steve?
I'm great, thank you. Yeah. Coping well, I think, with all the strange situation we're in, but we're getting on with it.
And I do want to thank you for something else. The picture, if anyone's been following us on social media, there's been a young lad in a wonderful cowboy hat floating around, and that was very good for us to use, so we appreciate it.
I think the fact that it was in black and white indicates how long ago it was. I guess I must have been 2 or 3 there in that picture, but it's a long time ago.
The question is, do you still have the hat?
Sadly not, or the tricycle. Or the tricycle, which, tricycle would probably be worth something now, actually.
There's a bit of a congratulations in order, although slightly belated, that at the IMI in 100 years.
Yes, 100 years this year. We had all sorts of things planned for our centenary. We were really lucky, actually, because we got our annual dinner, our centenary dinner, in literally just before the lockdown, and it was very well attended. We even had Prince Michael, our patron, there, shaking lots of hands. I don't think he'd have been doing that a week later. And also, one of our targets we set for this year was to raise £100,000 for Ben, and we actually raised about 17.5 on the night. We had a sort of silent auction and various things. But yeah, we're kind of adapting and adjusting our plans because we don't yet know what we'll be able to do when, but we've still got things going on around the centenary. I'm still jumping out of a plane for Ben at some point in time. So, I guess you are socially distanced when you're 10,000 feet up.
There's not many people that you can shake hands with up there.
No.
Are you working from home at the moment?
Yes. Yeah. One of the things that I'm actually quite pleased about is that we adapted to that very quickly. We were pretty well set up for having people work from home. So within a week, really, I think the week before the formal lockdown, we were down to a skeleton staff in the office. And during that week, we just made sure that those few people who needed some kind of help with IT and other things had all that sorted out. So we've got one person basically who we have a live-in caretaker in our building. So he's looking after the shop, but everybody else is working from home, and we've adapted to working remotely really well. We did the first fully remote endpoint assessment for the motor finance apprenticeship, which your student got distinctions, double distinctions, which is but that was the first time that had been done. It's amazing what you can do remotely. There are some restrictions, around practical tests and things like that, but there's much that can be done. And there are lots of benefits from that we'll carry forward.
I think that's an impressive thing to come out of this, is how working from home, suddenly it's gone from everyone being in a set unit to being forced into this situation. And it's been incredible to see a lot of people adapt, surprising themselves at how well they've adapted to it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I said to I've got 2 other directors and 4 sort of heads of department, and we have an hour's meeting 3 times a week. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I said to them, actually we have plenty to talk about. They're not agendaed. We just get together and they're really interactive. They're really good. That's better than it is when we're in the office, because normally we're all over the place. So we would look to continue that kind of thing. So
in today's podcast, we want to get to know a bit more about the person behind the title. I'm sure you have plenty of conversations daily, I'd imagine, that's very, very business. And we're going to try and extract as much value and knowledge as we can for everyone that's listening and watching. But we want to make it a bit more personal as well. So I'm going to kind of cover things for industry newcomers. So a few valuable things that maybe they can attach on to where you think that we're heading with digital. Your thoughts around the impact that lockdown's having and is going to have on the environment and the dealer landscape as we move into the future. And then a really fun bit at the end, which is the quick fire. Which should open things up a bit. So
reveal all sorts of dark things about my personality.
This could tarnish your whole career. with Calibre, we've built a purpose-built podcast studio in London where we would usually be filming and recording hugely high quality and making this all pristine. But a few things that have come of this is one that we've been able to adapt. So we're actually bringing you this from 3 different areas. Yeah. Which is myself in Somerset, which I'm surprised we've managed to connect because my internet is questionable at the best of times. We have Stu watching and listening on, the editing man from Munich, and then yourself, as you said, in Buckinghamshire. So it's opened things up quite nicely to show that things can be done. You don't have to be in the same facility the whole time to get value for people. And we're also very conscious that a lot of people have covered it already and have gone into great detail about the effects that this global situation is having on business and some of the negatives around it. We want to focus as much as we possibly can on the positives, the opportunities that we think will come out of this for kind of flexibility for staff, customers, more productive workforces, flexible working times, and just the general engagement of digital across the industry that I think we're going to see. So if we start with some value, so Steve, let's discuss what I think is probably, well, it's a huge opportunity as one of the largest employing sectors out there, and that's to really lead the way in how safe and flexible working can happen going forward. So I do think that we can lead the way with flexible working and rotas for staff, better work-life balance. And for me, one of the barriers that I thought when I was joining the trade was the hours. So actually this could open things up to maybe morning and afternoon shifts. I don't know, I'm thinking very broad, but what do you think some of the changes are that we're going to see moving forward?
Well, listen, I mean, I love this industry dearly. I've spent my entire career in it pretty much, but there are some things that have always frustrated me about it. And one of those is that for as long as I can remember, almost, people have been saying, you know, the model needs to change. And it's remarkably resilient for a lot of reasons. You know, some of it is the way we've historically recruited. So we've sort of recruited in our own image, and therefore, you know, by definition, we've baked in the model for the future. Sometimes you need something that absolutely shifts the paradigm in order to make things really change. So, I mean, I think anybody in the retail side of the business, anybody who really had been a bit of a disbeliever in digital, who had just simply had not yet got round to really embracing digital, so online selling and that sort of thing, must be bitterly regretting it at the moment. Those who have, you know, taken the initiative and perhaps been on the leading edge of that must be, you know, extremely pleased that they made those steps. I think as well, though, you know, working patterns generally, I mean, we undoubtedly exclude ourselves or exclude a lot of people who could work for us, who would do a great job for us, because in so many cases, you know, we're inflexible and we don't, you know, particularly, I mean, look, you know, over the many years I've worked in the industry, I remember, and I've worked on, you know, I've worked on the retail side, I've worked on the manufacturer side, probably more on the manufacturer side, but, you know, I have been both sides of the fence. And I remember actually going round and trying to kind of work on dealers to get them to open on Saturdays. And even then it was a sort of a token. I'm going back to the sort of 80s now, late 80s. But, you know, getting people to properly open on a Saturday, you know, they'd have a couple of guys in the workshop sort of tidying up warranty work or doing a bit of used car prep, weren't properly opening after sales, wouldn't open a full day on Saturdays. And then, you know, bit by bit we got there. And then of course Sundays came along, and, you know, many tried to do it without employing a single extra person or without giving any additional flexibility. So it sort of de facto became a 7-day-a-week job. You know, that's not how the shops did it, and particularly tough on management, because even if you had the odd extra pair of hands, you know, in sales or after sales or whatever, you know, the managers was sort of expected to kind of stretch across the whole thing. And I think we've made life more difficult for ourselves in that regard. You know, I still wonder why. I mean, there are silly things, aren't there? Very often you'll go into a dealer on a weekend. There'll be a much more relaxed atmosphere, often a kind of smart casual thing, even though they're often the two busiest selling days of the week. And then everybody comes back in with a suit and a tie on a Monday. Why? You know, in fact, why do they actually come in on a Monday? You know, or why do they all need to come in on a Monday? Well, you know what I mean? These sound blindingly obvious And there'll be people listening to this going, no, we don't do that. And I'm not, tarring everybody with the same brush, but there's a lot of people who will be going, yeah, guilty as charged, So, this is an opportunity that whether we like it or not, the model doesn't work and it won't work when we go back because, we're going to have to social distance for a considerable time to come. So, you've got to work smarter. And I think will be a catalyst for positive change.
Yeah, that's a really good point because it was a revelation for me. I moved from one dealer group to another and I came in to see them on the first day and I was wearing a tie and they were shocked to their core because they'd embraced the more relaxed approach. And it was amazing. It seemed like a different world to me and it was wrong, but the customer interactions were so much more relaxed. It was strange and they were all on and it was just it was a very different world. So it's going to be interesting to see where this leads, that's for sure. And that kind of leads nicely on to what I was thinking with regards to dealerships are going to be opening their doors again in whatever capacity as we move forward. So in your opinion, are there any ways that they should be maybe focusing to ensure the staff and the customers feel safe when they come back? I know you touched on the social distancing side.
It's an interesting thing because I belong to a body of industry bodies. It's just one of many things that I kind of belong to, but it's an organisation called the AALG, the Automotive After Sales Liaison Group, and it includes the likes of the SMMT guys from the SMMT, from the Independent Garage Association, and lots of other bodies, and really the purpose of that is that on occasions, rather than all going at something separately, it makes sense for us to have a collective view, particularly when you're lobbying government. But we're currently looking at this because we've all individually given advice to our respective members around the sort of things they ought to be looking at when it comes to bringing people back into the workplace. It's not just after sales either, it's much more general than that. It's, how do you maintain social distancing? How do you make it safe? Give people confidence, the fact they can get in and out of cars, deliver cars, collect cars and all that, and remain safe from infected surfaces. And we're currently sort of trying to agree amongst ourselves, and we're quite a long way through that. We've got a draft document that sort of works at a reasonably high level for any sort of set of premises, really, whether it's a main dealer or a small independent garage or whatever. I mean, accepting that there are an almost infinite number of different workplaces that provide their own particular challenges. I mean, there are some small premises where it's going to be really difficult to socially distance people because of space, but what do you do in those circumstances? And there's lots of advice in there. So, but most of it is sort of common sense, really. I mean, we all understand about regularly, probably deep cleaning premises before you go back into them. Regularly disinfecting surfaces, wearing appropriate PPE when you are in closer contact with people. I don't know whether you've seen, it's quite sweet really, but back in China where the kids have gone back to kindergarten and school, they're wearing these hats with like meter sticks on them.
I've not seen that, no.
Using them to kind of socially distance. I'm not suggesting we do that, but there are some just sensible practices. And so you're going to have to work with appointments, I'm sure, because you can't have, the interesting thing is though, I mean, I said I've been both sides of the fence. Back in the mid 80s, I used to run a BMW dealer operation. And, back then we had an incredibly busy after sales department in Fulham at that time. And about 75% of our customers were either collection and delivery, or we had a special key safe where they could drop their keys off, and we used to do remote payments with them. This is like 1985, remote payments with them and deliver their and we had a unique code we give each customer so they could collect their keys. So we were able to do social distance. That wasn't done for any other reason than convenience back then. But we were able to effectively social distance all those years ago. So anybody who says they can't do it, it's just a matter of application, isn't it, really?
Well, that's part one over and done with. So thank you so much, Steve. And make sure you tune in for part two for a bit more information from the CEO of the IMI.
Look forward to it. Hi, Jacob.
Hello, how are you, Steve?
I'm all right, thank you. Not bad at all. Not bad at all.
I think this social distancing thing maybe have gone a bit too far. I'm not sure how protected we need to be.
A little far, yeah. I think there's not that much chance of us infecting each other. Actually.
I got to take mine off. My glasses keep steaming up. Yeah, you carry on. I won't. Shall I show you my? This isn't mine. The unicorns aren't.
I don't believe you.
It's been sat there looking at me. Your mug you've got there's far more impressive.
I can't throw any stones, can I? Really, not with this. But yeah.